Hello, guys, welcome back once again to my world of Insta conversations. We are all set, and we are going to bring someone in today who's going to share their story on abuse. And how is everyone doing today? Hi, everyone, I am just getting ready to bring in my guest, and we shall take it from there. Okay. Alright, we are connecting with her, and she's in the house, guys. Alright. There we go. Hello there.
Hi, you okay?
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for asking. So I want you to just introduce yourself first, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, so my name's Lisa and I live in Leicester in the UK.
Okay.
And I've just been through a not very nice time recently, so I'm going to share that with you.
Okay. So I wanted you to. I read on your page that you are a survivor of a narcissist abuse. I would
Yeah.
want you to talk about that with the audience, please.
Yeah, so it's been I've been through a lot and a lot of things have happened. So I've wrote a lot of it down for you. So I'll read that for you if that's okay.
Yes, please.
So basically, about a year ago, I met a guy at work, and it was all going really, really well. I was really attracted to him. And after about 2 or 3 weeks, it was getting quite serious quite quickly. And he was asking me to move in with him. And I was the best thing the best person he'd ever met. But then he started telling me that his ex was crazy and things like that. So I'd never met anyone like this before. So I was just like, okay. So I thought I was like the savior kind of thing to his horrible past relationships. So what happened was, one day, I told him I needed to see my son, and that was before his school trip. And he suddenly turned on me. He suddenly started to say that I don't ever put him first, and he told me it was over. Ended up begging me to stop. I started begging him to stop being irrational, and he turned it all around on me, basically saying that I should put him first, I shouldn't see my kids. And somehow I ended up apologising. It was all quite strange. I'd never met anyone that wanted to argue with me and things like that before, so I just kind of was like, this is strange. But then he told me he'd got anxiety and he blamed it all on that. So I was beside myself. I ended up apologising. He said, I'll let it slide, is what he said to me. I then found out he'd slept with another girl right at the start of our relationship, before we'd had put a label on anything. I was really hurt, and he'd got mad at me, called me crazy, and said he'd never ever apologise for what he did. It lasted about 3 or 4 days, the argument did. Solid arguing and blaming me. I was just crying and beside myself all the time. He started to act differently by this point, so I asked him if he still felt the same about me. And then he told me to F off, stop being so delusional, and get out of his house. And another argument that lasted 3 or 4 days. My head was a mess. So then one day I had to change when I saw him from a Friday to a Thursday. He then kicked off and said it's not boding well. So I said, look, I've had enough. So I ended the relationship. He then said, good, I'm glad, loads of other nasty things. But then spent 2 weeks trying to get me to go back to him. And I thought he must really care about me to want me to go back to him. So I was like, I spent a couple of weeks deliberating over it. And in the end, I gave him another chance. he set up therapy sessions and asked me to go with him. He said it was all his fault. I basically said, look, I've got 3 kids and I don't really want to put them in that situation. But then he literally sent me hundreds of emails and text messages. He then turned on me and told me it was all my fault and I'd made him act that way because he had anxiety issues and I can't love him if I'm going to give up on him. So I ended up not being able to get him out of my head, and I gave him another chance. We started living together and things were amazing again. We literally had the best time. When he wasn't acting like that, he was back to being helpful, attentive, affectionate, and it was the best relationship ever. I was on cloud 9. But then I decided to slowly reintroduce the kids. We planned one day out together. We pulled up at McDonald's and my 7-year-old stepped on one of his car seats and he flipped at him so bad it shook me up and I was shaking. So I said to him, look, I'm a bit uncomfortable with how this has gone. So I asked him if he could take me home. He flipped his lid again, drove us home about 100 miles an hour, swearing all the way back, called my son a little shit, all my fault because and told me I'd acted like a child. I ended up apologising again. He wouldn't accept it, so I put his stuff on the front for him to collect. I went to work the next day and fainted at work. Hadn't ate for 5 days and I was being physically sick from all the drama. After 5 days, he decided to come and talk to me and started to throw things at the wall, which scared me because I thought, is he going to hit me? He told everybody at work how crazy I was and that I'd messed him about. So then it made work unbearable as well. Then one night, we'd had a drink and I fell asleep before him and he woke me up swearing in my face saying, you're so effing rude, not saying goodnight to me. And then he was swearing in my face and shouting in my face and I thought it was going to hit me. But then he locked me out the house, threw mine and the kids' stuff out of the bedroom window, smashed everything up, all my makeup box, mirrors, everything. He then sent me a video saying he was going to kill himself. I knew he wouldn't, but I got ambulance to go there, his mum and my brother round. He grabbed his mum by the throat, called her a cunt, kicked my brother. The ambulance turned up for about 4 or 5 hours. He didn't do anything. He just kept taking a couple of tablets and sending me the video saying, you're a bitch, I'm going to do this and it's all your fault. He then told me I don't care about my kids. I'm the lowest of the low. So I told him not to contact me again at that point. He then begged me and turned up at my work. By this time, I'd had to move position at work to get away from him. So I nearly lost my job. He once got really aggressive at me at work, shouting at me in front of everybody, saying that I can't love him if I'm going to give up on him. But work didn't do anything about it. He wouldn't take no for an answer of me now ending the relationship. I had to get a restraining order against him in the end because he would just not leave me alone. Then I went through a Clare's law and found out that he had beat up all of his previous girlfriends, about 5 or 6 of them, and was verbally and mentally abusive to all of them, to the point where I think mine was heading that way, but I managed to get out of it after about 7 or 8 months of this. I got out of it, but it's been about 8 months since it ended, and I still to this day, my head is just so scrambled. So basically, yeah, he just wouldn't leave me alone for about 4 months after, and I don't think that's like quite normal behaviour really. So just so confusing that someone that can be so nice to you can also be the opposite end of the scale. So yeah,
Wow,
it was horrible.
that's intense for you. I hope that now you're in a better place and know that I'm here and a lot of women on this forum are here for you. So connect with us.
Thank you. Yeah,
it's most
all the
definitely.
online things help massively, like just reading people's stories and seeing that you're not the only one that has been through things like this. You're not the only one that's there's a lot of people out there that act this way.
Sadly.
So many people that act exactly the same way. It's really strange. They have the same character traits, and until I started reading up on this kind of behavior, I'd never even heard of it before, and I think that's why it took me by surprise. And that's why I didn't get out of it sooner, because I was like, this is just weird. I've been quite lucky. All the men I've met in the past have been absolute diamonds and such sweet people. Like I've never met anyone that want that an argument will turn from something small into something massive. It's ridiculous.
Right, right. And like you saying, I've met so many people on my live stream and behind the sessions as well. When we're chatting, they reach out to me or I reach out to them, and it's the same thing. We never knew about this disorder or this
No.
what narcissists is about, and
Yeah.
they're like, once we went through all the trauma, then we started searching up, and then we found out that, whoa, bingo, that's the issue. So
Yeah.
it's so sad, and that is one of the main reasons I wanted to come forward and share this. Although there is so much information now on social media, yet I feel there are so many victims out there,
So
and
many.
yeah, and it's so sad. It makes me so sad and frustrated that, why is it like that, and why is it taking so long for, I mean, I really feel like some people connect with me and say, I'm still with him or with her,
Yeah.
and knowing everything, and it just frustrates me that, what can I do to help them,
Yeah.
so
It's hard
tell
because
me.
I would have still been with him because I still have a lot of feelings for him. If I seen him in the street now, I think I'd cry. And if I drive past the house that we shared, I think I do cry, because these kind of people, like especially for me, they can be the opposite end of the scale, be very, very loving, but then they can be the opposite, and it almost gives you a distortion in your brain that you can't quite wrap your head around. But I still can't help but think about the good things that we did. But he kind of made it so that I would think that, because everywhere we went, he'd get memory box and fill it up, and he'd get photos of everything we did. And when I had broke up with him and I had to go and clear the house out, he'd put all of our pictures up around. So I walked in and it was like, oh, and he'd put the teddy bear he'd got me on the bed and set it all out. It was a little bit psycho, to be honest, but he did it all so that I would walk in and think, oh, actually, I don't want to end it. And like the hoovering was so intense that had I not got my kids to think about as well, I would have ended up going back to him, definitely, 100%.
Right.
So I can
And
see why people don't leave.
yes, yes, and it's very natural, and I'm not blaming them, but it's just, I don't know, I can't really explain it, but it's just like, you just really want to help the person. That's what I feel, and I totally understand. Like you saying, they love bomb you, and you're just in a confused state most of the time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So tell me, once you did disconnect with him, how was your healing journey, and how have you been taking it so far?
So I decided to just get through one day at a time, like literally get through the day. And then every day I woke up, I thought, if I'm 100% healed over there, 0% there, every day is like a tiny percentage to get in there. That I tried to break it down. The first few weeks, I couldn't hardly get through the day. I was crying. I've never been so emotional. I had to cut contact 100%. Completely, and I felt it was quite a harsh thing to do, but I had no other way of getting out of it, because any kind of contact, he would take it as I was giving him an inch, he'd take a mile. So I had to cut it completely. And then the first few weeks was horrendous. I was so depressed, I was crying all the time, I didn't want to eat. But then gradually, tiny bit by tiny bit, at the beginning you don't even notice, but eventually just time does heal eventually. And I've actually started to get to the point now where I can get from morning to night and probably only give it a couple of thoughts of the day, and that's it. So I'm like miles better now, miles better.
Do you think that since you had kids, that's also played a part in your healing and coming out of the whole trauma?
I'll be honest, it kind of made it worse at the beginning, because I wasn't even able to be a good parent, because I was so depressed. It took over everything. And when they were needing me, I was so depressed that I didn't have the motivation to even do anything. So obviously I was looking after them, basically what I needed to do. But as far as actually playing with them and stuff, I was so depressed, I was just crying all the time. So I guess it did help me, because you have to carry on. But I was absolutely useless at the beginning, so it was really, really bad.
Yeah, don't feel that. I mean, you've been through so much, and you were not useless. You were just trying to deal with so much of intense trauma that you
because
were
I
going
felt
through.
guilty as well for bringing them into it, because they'd only met him like once, and already they were upset by the whole situation. My eldest son developed a habit where he was like hyperventilating and stuff from the stress. So, and that was only after meeting him once. So God knows how kids that are involved in this sort of thing for months and months and seeing the arguments and the abuse, like how it does affect them.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you. So tell me, once you were out of it and you said like, the first couple of weeks were really hard for you, did you have any support around you, like friends or family?
Well, believe it or not, my ex-husband was a massive help. And he said to me, look, I'll always be there for you. We've got the kids. Come and stay here if you need to, and things like that. So he just wanted the best for the kids. So he basically said that he would do anything to help. His family were all really good to me. My mum, my niece especially, because she's a trained counsellor, so she was trying to tell me that he was being abusive, and I was like, no, he's not. She was like, yes, he is, because he's blaming you for everything. He's not listening to you. He's not being fair. This is not a two-way relationship. And at the beginning, I couldn't see that. But then her help was really, really good, because she could actually see it from a trained point of view as well. So I had a lot of family and friends that were being really supportive. But it was getting to the point where some of my family, like my mum, was saying, look, if you give him another chance, I'm going to end up saying, get on with it, because I'm fed up with telling you that he's wrong for you. But yeah, most people were good about it.
That's great. Now tell me something. I was talking to somebody. He's a male specialist in this thing, and he helps you with journey of healing. And I was talking to him, I don't know, 2 days ago or something like that. And his approach was so different than everybody I've spoken to. Now he's a survivor, and now he is helping people. And he said to me, and I was like taken aback, because that's something I never heard. And he said, listen, I always ask the survivor this thing, why? We hear that you're the victim, and we're so used to listening to the same thing. Yes, and that made sense. And the way I'm saying is, like, he said, he was not putting down the person, the survivor, but he was saying, listen, we've identified that there are narcissists out there, right? And I said, yes. And he said, tons of people you're seeing, and you've talked to survivors, and whether they think they're victims or they're survivors, whatever, but you've talked to them. So we've addressed that there is a narcissist kind of disorder out there in the world. I said, yes. He said, no, that's it. We know that. What are you going to do for yourself now? How are you going to heal? How are you going to? So his main thing was that people who attract towards narcissist people was because there was something lacking in them, and they needed to do a self-reflection and see, like, either they were, like, one of the things where they are co-independent. That is one of the main things. So what do you think? Do you agree or do you disagree? What's your take on it?
I agree in a way. With me though, I was kind of sucked in, because he was very full on straight away. Now, I think when you're not experienced with, now if I met that kind of person in future, I'd be very wary. But when you've never had it before, I think anybody would be flattered when you're being told nice things. And I think it appeals to most human nature when somebody says to you, my ex was this, that, and the other, and you're the best. Most people would be like, oh, thank you.
That's
and
natural, right?
It's a natural thing. And I also think that a lot of people are not necessarily empaths, but empathetic. Like, the majority of people I've ever met sympathize with people, and I do that quite a lot. So yeah, I think there's an element of my personality attracts that, because I am a not kind, warm-hearted person that does sympathize if somebody says they were treated badly. But I think that's the same for so many people. So I think necessarily, because my upbringing was, there was nothing untoward, nothing that made me want to cohabit, and my other relationships have not been of any of the kind. So I agree in a way, but not totally.
Not her. Okay.
No.
Great, great. Now tell me, I always ask people this question. How would you describe a narcissist?
Me personally, I would say it's somebody that can't take the blame for anything, blames other people for everything, cannot take criticism at all. Any slight criticism, they would kick off, shout, say nasty things, things like that. So that's my personal experience and from what I've heard.
Right, right. If I were to say that narcissists are people who lack empathy, would you agree with me?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, any of the arguments I've ever had with one, there was no being able to empathize and see my side of it and feel my side of it. And that was apparent in every single aspect. Although, you know, if I'd hurt myself or I was feeling ill, it was there. But if it was an argument, I think in the moment when they can't see from anybody else's point of view but their own, and they can't have that proper empathy that other people can have. So in a way, I kind of empathize a little bit because it is a disorder. So
right, right, right. So tell me, are you still working there, or did you change your job as well?
I moved a department to another building, so I still work for the same company, but I'm in another building now. So we have separate Christmas dues, separate everything. So that's how it is still at the minute.
Okay, and how were people supportive at your workplace, or you
Yeah,
did?
I mean, my manager and my work colleagues were all really, really supportive. The only time I wasn't really supportive was the fact that when he was aggressive to me at work, I didn't make a complaint there and then because I thought that the manager's seen it. I thought they were going to do something about it, and they didn't. So a few weeks later, when he was still using the work email to email me messages saying, please come back to me and blah, 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 I reported him in the end because he wouldn't leave me alone, and they gave him 2 written warnings. He still works there now, though. He's on his final warning. So if he ever did do anything again, they've said that that would be it for him. They'd have to get rid of him.
Okay, gotcha. What do you think, me, how can we educate people more about this disorder?
Well, I think that we need to educate our young generation as they get older to what to look out for in people, because if anything of positive I can take from it is that I can warn my children of what I've been through and start to say to them, the reason I was told to always take a relationship slow, and when I met men in the past, I never have done. I met my husband, we were married within a year. I met my ex before him. We went like so quickly. And then obviously this one as well, and turned out really bad. And I always thought, oh, taking a relationship slow, what's the point? You know, you may as well just get stuck in, and if it works, it works. It doesn't, it doesn't. But the reason you should take a relationship slow is because you don't always see warning signs straight away, and you don't get pressured to, if somebody starts to say we should move in together or we should get married, and you say I don't want to yet, they should understand that and not. So I think it's important to teach our young generation to take their time and why they should, because I was always taught to, but not why. That's the only thing I can really think of.
Okay, somebody's asking, how early in your relationship did you notice the attitude of your partner?
It was probably after, I think he waited until we'd told each other that we loved each other. So it was kind of like after we'd said that to each other, which was only after about a month, I started to pick up his aggressive nature when we'd had a couple of arguments that were over. I literally just said to him, oh, do you still feel the same about me? And he would like get up in my face and start getting aggressive. And I was like, whoa, that didn't need to be an argument. I was asking a question. So it wasn't very, but I think the feelings I had were so strong already that I couldn't get out of it after a month. So it was early on though, really.
Right. And you know, the funny thing is, well, it's not really funny, but when I started taking on, and I was just reaching out to women basically, Never in my head that I thought that men also become victims. And then there were a few men who were following me. They inboxed me and they were like, if you want to educate and you want to spread awareness, why aren't you going out for male people as well? They're also victims. And I had to apologize. And I thought, to be honest, I never thought that way. But yeah, if you're interested, if you have a story, come on board. And it took me a while. And I have some people who are going to come in who are male survivors. And either it's the mother, it was the partner, and it's a totally different narrative from a male point of view. So but it's as sad as it is, because somebody just told me recently that uh the guy's mother was a narcissist and he committed suicide. Now how bad is that?
Really,
That
really
is so
bad.
tragic. And he was a
It
nice,
is.
successful guy.
Yeah.
So
And we're never going to
uh
get rid of it completely, because this does happen to people, and the way that way that children are brought up can lead to acting in that way. So I don't think it will ever go away as such. So I think it's working ways of helping people to recognise and deal with these things, and getting better support for both sides, really.
yeah. Somebody's asking, how long were you in the relationship and why? She just answered
Well,
that. I think he joined it late.
in total, it was only about 8 months in total. So
Yes.
not a
Mm-hmm.
long relationship, but probably the most relationship that's ever impacted me emotionally and everything. And I think why, just because literally I fell for him so quickly. And I still to this day will always love him in a way, but hate him at the same time. But it was an intense relationship, and we did have a lot of good times, and I think I stayed in it because of the good times, but I had
So,
to try and remember that the bad times were the whole person, that there's not a good person and a bad, that is him as a whole, because you sometimes separate the two.
right. What message? I will just wrap up here, and what kind of message do you want to give out to people who are, suffering from either it's narcissist abuse or any kind of abuse?
Any
What kind of
kind,
message?
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
what
think
kind of
that
message?
they need to realise that abuse is abuse, and at the end of the day there's hundreds of different reasons why somebody might abuse you. It doesn't make it right. And I think that people out there need to hopefully realise there's so much support and people like us that are willing to help, just to speak to, even for free. Like, there's a lot of counsellors out there that you can go to as well, but you can just get support groups online. And if you are going to choose to stay in the relationship, fair enough, but at least try and get help, but also have the courage to leave if you want to, because it is possible. And just to stay strong. There's so many people out there that have been through it as well that can help.
Right. Thank you so much, guys. Like she said, my final thoughts are, if you are in any kind of abuse, verbal, physical, any sort, take a minute and think why you putting yourself through that. I think one of the biggest things that we miss out on is we don't ask ourselves, why are we letting ourselves being abused? And I think that's one of the biggest things, that where are we going to draw that line? Where are we going to set our boundaries in any relationship? So definitely I would say that please kindly, you want to stay in the relationship, you don't want to stay, that's totally on the individual, like she said. But yeah, just do a little self-reflection on, you are as worthy as anybody out there. So do not let anybody abuse you. And we are here for you. And there are so many people who are going to be there for you. They're not going to judge you. They're going to listen to you. They're going to help you. Healing has no definition. Take your time. And much love to you. Thank you so much for your time. And
Anytime. Thank you.
and we'll stay in touch, and just reach out to me anytime, okay?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Bye.
Take care, all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.